Thanks for listening to the ArtTactic Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Green. After a booming art market in China prior to, during, and immediately following the pandemic, beginning in 2021, we started to see a noticeable softening that largely tracked the broader slowdown in the Chinese economy. That cooling has continued over the past several years. But as we approach one of the biggest moments of the year for the Asian art market with Art Basel Hong Kong opening on March 25th, there are growing signs of renewed optimism. In this week's episode of the podcast, we speak with Angelle Siyang-Le, Director of Art Basel Hong Kong, to preview this year's fair. We discuss the current state of the Chinese art market, how Art Basel Hong Kong fits within an increasingly competitive art fair landscape across Asia, what galleries are expecting heading into this year's edition, and some of the highlights and new initiatives to look out for at the fair this year. We hope you enjoy our conversation. Thanks so much for listening. Angelle, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Adam. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Well, I can't believe Art Basel Hong Kong is just a few weeks away. I'm sure you're already quite busy leading up to the fair, so appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. So before we even jump into the fair, you're there based in Hong Kong. It'd be great if you could share your perspective on what the state of the art market is like in China today. Of course, the market was booming, and then we had the pandemic, and we've really seen a softening since then. But there are some signs of recovery. What is your sense of the market and the market confidence at this moment?
I feel that where I stand, which is obviously Hong Kong, and Hong Kong always this global profile, meaning that it's not just one city, but it actually carries layers of histories and connections for the region. So it's I always see Hong Kong as a representative of like Asia, and obviously being within the Greater China region, we also lean a lot towards mainland China, meaning that what happened in terms of state of the art market in China also matters to us. And what I have observed in the last 12 months is that obviously the hype of the art market is not as crazy as like in 2017 or 18 when everybody was coming over to Greater China to check it out, what's happening over here. It's like in terms of growth, I still see growth, but the growth is more horizontally rather than vertically. What I mean by that is that the scope of the art market is still growing, leading by this new generations of collectors. I use the word new, usually not young, because it's not really defined by age. A lot of them are obviously young, the younger generations coming in strong, although there are other collectors come from other collectibles markets and also joining the market in the past year or two. And these newer collectors coming into the scenes, they are using kind of a more thoughtful approach for like into the market with them. Legacy building is very vivid in the younger generation's mind, and the collectibles, they come in with certain knowledge to the market already, very used to buying and selling. It's a lot more rational. There are still a lot more, when I'm talking about this new generations, actually it's also including the rest of Asia, not only in China. We see that increase of private museums, foundations, private collections, just still happening in the last 12 months. I believe that many people in the regions have been to Thailand in the past 12 months to see the DIB, the museum opening. Everyone was very exciting and celebrating that particular opening. But at the same time in Taiwan, there are also private museums, public museums that are also opening up in the last 12 months and in the next 12 months. Same thing in China. And I also just went to Singapore earlier this year. The new foundations and private space opening up to support the RSG fairs also brings in this excitement. And speaking of Hong Kong, before our show in March taking place, the Sarkite, the foundation is also happening, and the new galleries antenna space is also opening the second space in China, which is locating in Hong Kong. So there are quite a few, new things popping up, and these are not just something random. It's something so strategized, planned, and it's been boiling for like a few years ahead of time. So I feel that the market now, even though it's kind of like less hype, but it's definitely growing in terms of the scope.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your perspective on that. And also, over the last several years, we've seen a growing number of art fairs across Asia, from Seoul to Singapore to other locations. How do you see Art Basel Hong Kong's role within this increasingly competitive landscape? And for our listeners who maybe have been to one fair in Asia or haven't yet, how do you think Art Basel Hong Kong really differentiates itself from the other fairs in Asia?
Yeah, I do get asked a lot whether or not I see the other fairs as competitions, and I always like to address things from where we stand in Asia, from the East. The word competitor for in the Eastern philosophy, we don't see competitions necessarily negative, and actually we see it a little bit more differently. I would say that these shows actually complement the whole region, and in some beautiful way we complement each other. What we have been observing, let's say free sold in the past year, especially since COVID, it's that the results from having another kind of a major fair in the same region is that our Korean visitor numbers has been increasing. Our Korean artists, participants, VIP attendance has also built this like positive growth. I do feel that the good thing here is that people start paying more attention to Asia, knowing that the diversity of the regions actually deserves, like more than one visit a year. If you really want to get to know it and connect with the regions. And we, like, apart from Seoul, we also actually support Art Week Tokyo in the past years, and also kind of since COVID. And we also see a growth of Japanese participants. Like we actually have a higher Japanese exhibitors number than even before COVID. So I think these kind of like growth results from like the increasing awareness and understanding of these regions. So I feel this competitions somehow complement this region, which is something I'm very grateful to see.
So I imagine you're often in dialogue with many of the exhibiting galleries leading up to the fair. As we look ahead to this year's edition, how do you think exhibitors are feeling heading into this art fair that's arguably the biggest fair of the year thus far? It really serves, I think, as one of the first major tests of the art market this year.
I think we definitely standing in a very complex time. Although art fairs, we always say that Art Basel, we are not only a buying and selling platform anymore. It's where we're standing today, how we're organizing the programming around the fair week. It's really kind of building the synergies and creating that connections between different communities, even outside of the visual art communities. So I feel after a lot of conversations, first of all, now it's kind of like a concentrated time for people to ship their artworks here. And what I appreciate the most during this time is everyone is trying their best to send the best works they can offer to our show to Asia, and the art markets, and probably even the market it's lacking a little bit of the celebrations and for a very long time. And I feel that people wants to come to the fair and to really find inspirations and find that discoveries and just have more hope, once more. And coming to an art fair like Art Basel, we also function as a platform for people to really regenerate that energy. And galleries are definitely excited to, build that connections again, especially those who haven't really been back for a while. They really want to reconnect with the regions, knowing the new people, making those, new contacts through the platform. And also this year we have the International Cultural Summit hosted by West Kowloon, the cultural districts of the city. And we will be bringing a lot of we as in Hong Kong will be bringing a lot of the museum directors, curators, to this one-day summit. And there are a lot of big topics needs to be addressed. And I feel the coming weeks, the momentum is going to get built. And when people arrive, you will feel that impact and influence that you are able to initiate and trigger down to the rest of the years.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to having my inbox flooded with previews over the next couple of weeks leading up to the fair.
Me too.
And so looking specifically at this year's edition, I'm also really interested in hearing what you're most excited about pertaining to Art Basel Hong Kong, whether it's new presentations or initiatives or areas of growth for the fair.
We probably have in terms of the number of new elements we're adding to the show, it probably is the 1 year we're throwing things all out in one go. We have pretty much a brand new team of curators from all our special sectors having new curatorial team members joining us, starting from Encounters, where we house the large-scale installations, leading by the director of Mori Art Museum, Mami Kataoka, and she is leading 3 other mid-career curators to curate for the Encounter sector. And all the curators are significant in their regions within Asia. So I feel that in terms of the thematic curation, in terms of deepening the network for the regions, for the artists and the collectors, the Encounters curator teams will very much focusing on expanding that effort. And we also have another 2 new curators, Ellen Pout, who's a video artist, actually acting as a curator for our film sector. I'm very, very excited about that. Always want to work with an artist and, when they act as slightly different roles for our fairs, bringing this new energy and new artists and new perspectives to our program. And we also have another guest curator for our Conversations program, Venus Lau, who is a Hong Konger. However, she is actually based in Jakarta. She's the director for the private museum Macan from Jakarta. So a lot of energy is coming from different parts of Asia, bringing brand new content to the show. And talking about new elements again, we have a new sector for the very first time since Art Basel, kind of came to Asia echoes. It's our new sector spotlighting mid-career artists and mid-tier galleries. And then we do feel that this is the sector where we need to support more, highlight more. It's a very important category in the art ecosystem. And obviously 010. 010 had this amazing, fabulous debut in Miami Beach. Everybody was very excited. And even those Asian collectors and artists who didn't go to Miami Beach, everything was kind of being very closely followed online. And as soon as the first debut in Miami Beach closed, I've been asked, is 010 coming to Hong Kong? Because they want to see it. But what is going to be different and new to 010 is that we will have a lot more Asian content in the 010 Hong Kong edition. So we will have Asian artists like DK, Annie Kusanald, Chu Lei. These artists will be bringing digital art, but the digital art with Asian context.
Yeah, and one of those initiatives you mentioned is 010. I remember seeing the inaugural edition at Art Basel, Miami last year. Out of the corner of my eye, I had to go over and check it out, even though digital art, it's really not what I'm necessarily focused on. And it was really a spectacle. There was just unbelievable art. I couldn't believe my eyes, to be honest, at some of the art I was seeing, but it was really memorable. And certainly there were a lot of conversations about it. So following the launch of this platform in Miami, as you said, it will continue at Art Basel Hong Kong. Why do you think Hong Kong is a particularly strong setting for expanding this digital art initiative?
I feel Hong Kong has actually been talking a lot about digital art already, especially during COVID. I remember we actually had this nothing to do with Art Basel, but there was this digital art fair already during COVID, and it was very popular. And even in 2024, before 010, in Hong Kong, we actually hosted the first digital dialogue within the art fair. And at the time, it was a closed door event by invitation only, and we only invited about 100 kind of digital art galleries, digital art collectors, artists, and I felt that the energy has already been there, and it wasn't us creating that energy. The energy has been there for a while already. And then I think it's the right time because, Art Basel always, take things very seriously. We have been, cultivating the community and trying to bring the digital art community slightly closer and closer every year to the art fairs. And this year we felt it's ready for the Asian audience, especially with such a successful debut in Miami Beach. And one of the collectors from Hong Kong actually flew to Miami just to check out 010, and this collector, Alan Lau, who it's a prominent art collectors in I always hate to use the traditional contemporary art sense, but also the digital art. And we actually finding that a lot of people will be flying in for that as well, because the region is actually very much digital and tech led. There are a lot of Koreans, the Japanese. They also would like to find out what's happening in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong being the place housing the first edition of 010 makes sense. Other than the fact that Basel Hong Kong is taking place, but also Hong Kong is known for a culture that welcomes new elements. So I feel that people will be more open-minded in a setting that is so kind of open and welcoming. And naturally, this week we'll be gathering a lot of like museum people as well, and museums, including our home museums, and plus they have a digital art collections. So I feel that actually in terms of hardware and software, we are very much ready to welcome the first edition of 010.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be really interesting to see the types of art at 010 in Hong Kong, and really just to see how the fair goes overall. Angelle, thanks so much again for coming on the podcast and helping us preview this year's edition of Art Basel Hong Kong. We really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Adam, and look forward to seeing everyone on site.
See you there.